Shalom. So today we're going to look at discerning between darkness and night. Sometimes this is very difficult. You know why? Because we're trying to use one culture to discern, and that's very problematic because what one thing means in this culture might not necessarily mean the same thing in another culture, right? We read that in Ecclesiasticus chapter 1. Something translated from one language to another is not always the same meaning. It does not carry the same function. So, in order for us to truly discern, we have to go deeper than thinking. We have to be more practical with our discerning, right? Discerning comes down in wisdom. Wisdom comes down in application. Application comes down in what? Practicality. So until this goes into action, you will not truly discern something, right? So we have to have the concept of reality, the true concept of reality. Reality is one. The Most High is one, akkad, one. No, the thing about reality is, from our standpoint as humans, reality is divided in two, right? For example, over here we have day, on the other side we have night. Over here we have summer, on the other side we have winter, right? Over here we have light, over here we have darkness. No, it's not the separation as how we perceive when something is separated, like I'm over here and you're over there. No, it says his thoughts are not our thoughts, right? His ways are not our ways. So how we perceive reality is not actual reality, right? So it's very important to understand this. So, for example, if you want to truly discern something, you first have to do what? Separate yourself from it so you can see it for what it is. So the first step of separation is to separate yourself from the thought process that comes with this English culture. For example, can a fish discern with water and dry land? No, because the only thing the fish knows is the water. Unless you take the fish outside of the water, then it will know that something else exists. But while the fish is in the water, the fish might not even realize there is water because that's all it knows. So we were born in this English culture, this English cultural thought process, right? That's the only thing we know. So we think in this culture, we think that darkness and night is the same thing. No, the only way for us to truly discern is to step away from our English thought process and look at it from a different standpoint. And we will see. Right. Now, the next thing about discerning with English is English makes it very hard to truly discern because it's more based on how we feel about something rather than what something actually is. For example, if certain woman dresses like a man, certain woman dresses like a man, with the cornrows, drop the pants, and things like that, right? They can actually believe they're a man. No, but you're still seeing your period, you still can have babies. You are not a man, even if you think and feel as if you're a man. So that's the thing about the English language. Now, in our original culture, things are defined according to the function that they serve, the purpose that they serve, right? So, darkness and night, let's look at some of the definitions from the English standpoint, right? All right. According to the dictionary, darkness, state of being dark, lack of light. Night, the period where the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon until twilight the next morning. That period is called night, or 30 minutes after sunset and 30 minutes before sunrise, right? Now, in the English, darkness and night is the same thing, which this definition over here, it's not incorrect because it's also showing a separation between the period of light called day, right? No, when we read this in the Bible, we perceive that this darkness or this night was before light. No, it says darkness was before light. It did not say that night is before light. And this is what we don't really try to discern, right? Now, let's look at this from the Hebrew culture. We are going to read in English, but we're going to remove the English thought process from the scripture and we're going to read it with the Hebrew thought process. Now, let's go through some precepts. So, we're going to start at Exodus chapter 10 and verse 20. Well, what I want is 22. Let's start from 21. It says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt." Right? So let's deal with this here. He's going to stretch out his hand that there may be a darkness over the land of Egypt. Now the question is, when Moses stretched out his hand, was there a night over the land? Or was there a darkness? Is there a difference between what came over the land? Let's go to the next verse. It says, "And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days." Now, we're going to jump to Genesis chapter 1, then we come back here to deal with this. Genesis chapter 1, verse 4 says, "And God saw the light, that it was good. It was operational, it was practical, it was functional. That it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness." Okay, so he made a separation, right? Now it says, "And God called the light day." So over here you have light, over here you have dark. Now he names them day and night. No, the statement is the Most High separated day from night. We can all agree. Just like your left hand is separated from your right hand. But they both work together to do whatever you need to be done. Right? No, if the Most High separated your left hand from your right hand, who can come back and tell you that your right hand is part of your left hand? No, the right hand is part of the body, but it is not your left hand. The eye cannot be the ear. The nose cannot be the mouth. The light cannot be the dark, and the dark cannot be the light. They are adversity to each other. Light is the antithesis of darkness. Light is the antithesis of darkness. So if there's darkness now and you turn on the light, the darkness ends automatically. They cannot both exist like that. Right? Not in the heart of light. Now, what we're dealing with right here now is a separation between light and dark, day and night, So we're going to go back to Exodus chapter 10 and verse 22. It says, "And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness," not a thick night, a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Remember, he already separated day from night, right? So there can be darkness while it is yet day. For example, a lot of times when you see thunderstorms and so forth, it's very dark. But the reason you can still see objects is because the light is still there. It's just a thick darkness. And we're gonna see that. Let us go to Psalms 105 and verse 28. Book of Psalms 105. It says, "He sent darkness and made it dark, and they rebelled not against his word." He did not send night, he sent darkness. So there's actually a difference between darkness and night. We're going to go to Ezekiel 32. And I'm just going through a few precepts to show function of darkness. Ezekiel 32 and verse 8. It says, "All the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land, saith the Lord." All the bright lights. So guess what? Just like it's daytime now, the sun is there, right? Well, it's a bit cloudy. We are not actually seeing the physical sun, but the reason we can still see the trees, the cars, the houses, objects, is because there's a light that is shining through the darkness, right? So on a spiritual level, light and dark coexist on a spiritual level. Good and evil coexist. This is why some people cannot understand Ezekiel 45 and verse 17. Satan did not create evil, the Most High did. It's one reality. From our standpoint, reality is divided in two. This is why we have mind and matter, and we perceive matter as this world outside that we can touch. These things, tangible things. That's from our standpoint. Satan is not an adversary to the Most High. Death and life, they work together, and that is how things are being maintained. That's how the ecosystem is maintained. The shark feeds on this fish, and this fish feeds on that, and that's how it is. Life is maintained that way. So death and life, yes, they are separated, but together they continue a cycle. And this is why it's important to understand reality from the standpoint of reality. It's important to understand the Most High from the standpoint of the Most High. Not the concept, the human concept of reality. Right? So, like I said, good and evil is a concept of the human mind. In spirituality, it is called wisdom. So, from the standpoint of the Most High, it's not good or evil, but from our standpoint, we say good or evil, depending on what end of it we fall. Right? World War III coming, we know who is going to be destroyed, who will be redeemed. So, from the standpoint of those who will be destroyed, they perceive it as an evil thing. From the standpoint of those who will be redeemed, we will perceive it as a good thing. So you see, it's the same good and evil. One experience divided into good and evil based on the standpoint of who is perceiving it. But from the standpoint of the Most High, it's called wisdom. That's the balance in the equation. So until we understand this standpoint of reality, it's going to be very difficult to understand this. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and 23. Chapter 5. It says, "And it came to pass, when he heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire, that he came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders." So the Most High did not come out of night, he came out of darkness. So there's a difference between darkness and night. Night is when, okay, now we're having day here. When the sun goes beyond the western horizon, what is remained is called darkness. It's called night. No, that is in terms of time. No, what happens if you're actually in like a cave or in a nightclub? That's literal darkness. There's no concept of time. You don't know whether it's night or day inside a cave. You're just going with your lantern, your light, flashlight, whatever it is. You cannot tell if it's day or night. That's literal darkness. Now, let's look at two different words from the standpoint of the Hebrew. So now we have kashak, H2822, which is darkness. And then we have night, which is H3915, layala. And they have two different functions from the Hebrew language. But you see, when you read this in English, using the word darkness and night, people use them however they want to use them, especially if it fits their narrative. In Hebrew, it is not so. When the sun departs, you don't say that's kashak. You say it's layala. When you step inside the nightclub or the cave, you don't say it's layala. You say kashak because you don't know. How many times you've been in club until 10 a.m., whatever time, 9 a.m., but you have no idea because the club is dark. So, darkness and night are only the same thing in the English culture, but step outside the English culture, they are two different things with two different functions. Shalom.